Cornetto. No, not this type of cornetto, but this type of cornetto we are talking about today. Yes, this is the Italian version of a croissant, but instead of just the regular lean dough, we are using a brioche dough to create this delicious breakfast pastry. So what does cornetto mean in Italian? Well, it means little horn, and that's what gives it its shape. Italians like to enjoy a sweet breakfast, and having a cornetti and an espresso for breakfast is very common in Italy. Cornettos or cornetti, singular, is often filled with different types of delicious fillings such as apricot jam, custard, and my favorite, Nutella. Cornettos are made from laminated dough. So all that means is our dough has many alternating layers of butter and dough, which puffs in the oven, giving this delicious, soft and flaky layers. Now the first thing you're going to want to do to make your cornettos is to prepare your dough. Now if you haven't already watched the brioche master dough recipe, go and check that out. It will be linked in your dashboard. Now, a couple of things to mention about the dough is for this recipe, I have opted to replace our all-purpose flour with a stronger flour, like a bread flour. That's just going to allow us to have more lift and puff to our cornettos. In addition to that, we've also added a little bit of glucose syrup, just going to make them last a bit longer, so you can prepare many ahead of time and they will last a few days. Now what we first want to do is just always make sure when you are working with your pastry that you have a nice floured surface. We're going to roll this out into a rectangular shape. Now we're making our butter block. So this is going to go in our dough for our laminating process. So just take the amount of butter that you need. Now it's very important that your dough and your butter is at the same texture. So it's important that your butter is between 12 and 15 degrees Celsius. So we're at about 9 degrees Celsius, so it's a little bit cool, but once we start rolling it out, we should get it at the right temperature that we need. Okay, so we can pop that in our envelope. And the fun part. And we are going to position our butter block onto our dough. Now just fold over your dough to meet in the center, brushing off any excess flour. And we're going to use our rolling pin to lock in our dough. So we're just gently pressing down and going along our dough, just locking that vegan butter into place. Roll this all the way out, just very gently to begin with, because we want to make sure that our butter, our vegan butter, is going to spread evenly. So now we're going to do our first turn. This is called a single fold or single turn or a letter fold. So we're going to take that top part here, we're going to take it over 1/3 and we're going to pop this other third over the top of that so they meet. Now immediately afterwards we're going to perform our second turn, and it's going to be the same type of turn And we always want to have it in front of us like a book, the open seam on the right side, closed seam on the left. Okay, so at this stage we don't want to perform any more turns. We need the dough to have a chance to relax. That will allow us to stretch it back out again. So all we want to do at this stage is just grab your cling wrap from before and wrap this up well into a tea towel. And we're going to pop this into the freezer for 20 minutes. Okay, so we've taken our dough out of the freezer and we're going to do our final turn. Perfect. So you just want to wrap this up. And now this is going to go into the refrigerator for 1 hour. So we have plenty of time for the gluten to relax. So we're going to measure the length of our template, the longest length, and that is what we're going to roll out the width of our dough to be. So what I like to do is grab my knife and we're going to open up that closed seam which is on our right hand side and left hand side. So any closed seams, we are going to open those up. This is going to help us to roll out. And I want to stretch it out this way. So we're just going to make sure we have plenty of flour. I'm going to maneuver my dough over and we want to get it that width. Now our dough's rolled out. I've just let it to rest for a couple of minutes. And I have my template here, which basically I just cut out of paper. Now, to have it so it's easy to work with and you can reuse it, just grab yourself a little bit of oil. And you want to generously rub the oil all over your template. So we're going to get started here. So the first thing that I like to do is cut myself a nice edge. Now all your cornettos are cut out, we're going to lay them on our tray here. And we're going to pop these back into the refrigerator for at least 15 minutes. And that's just going to help the gluten relax and our vegan margarine to firm back up. And now we're going to start shaping them. So I want to make sure that I keep them covered. I don't want them to dry out while we are doing that. So I want to take out my croissant. And the first thing that we are going to do is take our knife and make an incision at the top about 1/2 inch. Okay? I'm going to stretch that out to about 10 centimeters or so. Something like that. Yep. And then taking this, we are going to stretch it out very, very gently. Now to shape our croissants, I always like to get the tail and just kind of adhere it to my bench there. And now what we're going to do is rolling over those little wings there. And we're going to use this kind of sweeping motion to roll our croissants. And I always like to roll it from the ends. Okay. Take that little end piece. And you have your croissant. And we want to make sure that we have nice spacing between each one so we can continue. So all of our cornettis are shaped. We can now brush each one with some vegan egg wash. So now what we can do is proof them. So I'm going to put these in my proofer. Something really important to note. Make sure that you do not proof these above 27 degrees Celsius. We want to proof them in the range of somewhere between 24 and 27 degrees. If we go above this temperature, the butter layers that we created with our lamination is going to melt into one another and we won't get nice flaky cornettos. So I'm going to put these in my proofer now. If you don't have a proofer, you can put these in an oven which has been turned off, or just put something which is going to cover them and seal them so they don't dry out. So our vegan cornettis have been proofing, and as you can see, they've more than doubled in their size and they're nice and jiggly. So at this stage, we can add our final egg wash and start baking. Our cornettis have come out of the oven and they smell and look absolutely delicious. So I've allowed them to completely cool down because now we are going to fill them as they do in Italy. So you can absolutely eat your cornettis plain like this. I have some vegan Nutella here, or you can use jam or pastry cream. Now to fill your croissants, I always like to get myself a chopstick. And what we're going to do is just make an incision on the side here so we can get our piping tip inside, and always making sure we use a lot of pressure. We can fill with some of our chocolate. And it's always a nice idea to add a little bit extra on the end, and then we know that this is our chocolate filled cornetti. Okay, so now we're going to finish off our cornettis. I have some crushed hazelnuts here, which I thought would look very nice. So you can decorate however you like. I'm going to put a few little nuts on there, and then I have our powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar. And I think we're going to do a little bit of a decoration. We're going to do it on like an angle here. So let's have a look. Yes, I think that looks lovely. So there you go. There is your beautiful cornetti.